You guys know I'm very pro-life, and I've been kind of going after specific arguments that pro-choice people make and talk about how they're completely wrong and make absolutely no sense. I talked about the arbitrary concept of consciousness determining life, and that being the criterion for what makes a life worth preserving. So, I talked about Destiny, who was part of an abortion debate. He's pro choice. He said that it's okay for abortions to be basically unlimited before 20, 24 weeks, whenever a fetus starts to develop self awareness, consciousness. And yeah, consciousness is the thing that determines what an actual life is. So I made a whole video debunking that. This video, I'm going to debunk the concept of viability and what that actually means. Well, spoiler alert, it means absolutely nothing because it's another arbitrary thing that really just destroys the entire pro choice argument because all they rely on are these concepts that make absolutely no sense when you actually apply real logic to it. And the whole state of viability is another thing. People talk about viability when they talk about being pro choice and supporting abortion. They argue that it should be okay to abort a fetus because the fetus is like a parasite. They're not even a human, they're a leech. And you need to cut them out of the woman's body if need be. If the woman does not want the fetus in their body, if they do not want to give birth. And they talk about viability, the idea that if a fetus cannot survive without the mother, like in the womb, if the fetus cannot survive outside of the womb, then that should also be a criterion for abortion being okay if it reaches before that point of viability. It's completely ludicrous because if you actually think about that, like as a core concept, like as a scientific concept, yes, there is a certain point where fetuses rely completely on the mother in the womb. And then there are other points where, like you have like an issue where like the child, that's what I'm going to call it because that's what it is, baby has to be born, has to be delivered early because there's an issue with the mother or whatever. So they have to have an emergency C-section and give birth and all that, where the baby can actually survive on its own without instantly dying. I knew someone in high school that was born 3 months early, something like that, which is like completely insane. But yeah, it's possible. So I still don't think that it makes any sense for that to be the criterion for allowing abortion or not allowing abortion, because yeah, at its core, there is, like I said, there is a scientific meaning for that. But philosophically speaking, viability is such a loose concept because yes, while a fetus cannot live without the mother, uh, you know, from a biological perspective, even when they're delivered, even when they're a newborn baby, can a newborn baby survive on its own without the mother or the father? Can a 4-year-old survive on its own without the mother? So what does it matter if it's in the womb or outside the womb? It cannot survive on its own, so it's okay to abort it. Are we Spartans now? Like where we're leaving babies out in the woods and and letting them fend for themselves? I actually think that was debunked and they didn't actually do that in ancient Sparta, but I'm sure you guys have heard that saying before. That's what I learned in school, like in elementary school or middle school, whatever it was, that's what the Spartans did. So but it's like, they may or may not have done it, but are we going to be like the Spartans, what we think they did with babies? Like, of course not. We're not going to have birth. We're not going to have a newborn baby or a 1-year-old or a 2-year-old or a 5-year-old that can't forage for food itself, that can't survive on its own, to just let it be on its own and not raise it anymore. Like, it makes absolutely no sense for them to fixate on this whole thing with viability then. Because if we don't apply that logic to babies and children outside the womb, then why the hell are we doing it inside the womb? Oh, something bodily autonomy. Okay, but now there's a life in there, so your whole bodily autonomy means nothing when another life is at stake. It's like, I don't give a shit what you do to your body. You can smoke 25,000 pounds of meth. You can shoot up all the heroin you could possibly want. I don't give a shit what you do with your body. But once another person's life is on the line, then I care. Because then it's the killing of an innocent person. It's practically murder. Even if people don't see it that way, even if society doesn't see it that way, it's still what it is. It's a fact that life begins at conception. It's not an idea. It's not something that I made up. It's a fact. And it's a fact that more people need to accept.